Okay, so now we're moving on into our Foley catheter insertion on my 18-year-old male patient, Mr. Jamie Carson. He's going to be heading down to pre-op later on today to have a laparoscopic appendectomy, and the doctor has ordered for him to have a Foley catheter inserted. So I'm going to go ahead and identify myself and identify the patient. I'm going to match my patient's ID bracelet to my doctor's orders that I have here, stating that he is to have a pre-op Foley cath inserted. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Prior to me go ahead and starting and inserting the Foley catheter, I'm gonna perform some peri-care. I know that it might be a little bit weird because my patient's 18 years old and he's young and is very capable of doing it. We're still gonna go ahead and do it for teaching purposes. So I would go ahead and wash my hands. I've let my patient know exactly what it is that we're going to be doing. And I'm gonna go ahead and put on my gloves. Yes, I had gloves in my pocket. So I'm gonna go ahead and put on my gloves. I've let my patient know what we're doing, that we're inserting a Foley for him to go down to the OR with. Okay, so now that we've got that done, I've got my washcloths here. I've got my water that I'm gonna be using, to provide the peri-care. My right hand is my dominant hand, so I'm gonna be using my right hand. So I'm gonna go ahead and start by grabbing my patient's penis. And my patient's circumcised, so there's no need to pull back the foreskin. But the main thing about peri-care with Foley insertion is we're just gonna clean around the meatus. So I use the 4-fold method. So I've got the 1 fold, and I'm just gonna clean all the way around the meatus, and then I'm gonna go ahead and fold back. And then I'm gonna clean it again and fold back. Clean it again and fold back. And I'm on the last one, and I can just clean again. So now I can go ahead and rinse. I would grab a new washcloth and rinse using the same method, the 4-fold, and I'm just gonna rinse. 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 And then the last fold I'm going to rinse. And then we can go ahead and pat dry. Okay, so now that our peri-care is done, I can go ahead and remove these gloves and go ahead and get my Foley kit out. So I'm just going to move, I want to keep this so I can show my sterile technique. So I'm going to keep this over here for a little bit, and then I'll move it back in so that I can have enough space to show my sterile technique. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove my gloves, and then I'm gonna go ahead and grab my Foley kit. Okay, so I've got my kit. I'm gonna go ahead and take it out of the packaging. It looks pretty beat up and made because I've used it so many times. Because my table isn't that big to show the entire thing, I'm just going to demonstrate how I would do it if I had like a wider table, and my 1-inch borders are going to come off a little bit because there's not enough space here. But anywho, moving on. So I would go ahead and open, and then I would open my sides, and then I would open this down using the 1-inch borders, and I'm just going to turn it so it can better fit on my field on my table, and I'm using the 1-inch borders. So I've got my sterile gloves here. So I'm gonna go ahead and move my patient over so that we can see that, and that can be in the frame. I don't really need the bigger, so that the penis can be in the frame. Okay, so that can be seen. So now I'm gonna go ahead and start with my gloves. So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab the gloves. And I don't wanna reach across my sterile field, so I'm here. I'm using the 1-inch borders to open, and you can't really see me opening my gloves in here. So I wouldn't do this, but I'm just trying to get everything in the frame. So I'm just gonna have this here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to I'm touching the 1-inch border out here just to flatten that. I'm gonna go ahead and grab this by the cuff, put on my fingers in one hole. Sorry. I would not touch my sterile gloves, but 2 fingers went in one hole. I couldn't get out. Okay, and then I'm gonna go ahead and grab by the cuff. And there we go. And then I'm just gonna now move this out to the side and bring my penis back over here into the frame while I get my show my other sterile steps. Okay. I'm only doing this for video purposes to try to get all my stuff in, and so everything can be in frame when I'm showing all of my stuff. Okay, so now that I've got that, I'm gonna go ahead and start with my kit. So I can now go ahead to start by draping my patient first. This first drape is a full drape. I would just put this in between the patient's legs, kind of under the penis without touching any skin, because remember, we are sterile. That would go there, and then I can go ahead and place my fenestrated drape. And I'm staying sterile, keeping my hands above, keeping my arms. This is my fenestrated drape. I would just drape it around the patient's penis. Okay, now that we've got that done, that's done nicely. Now I'm gonna go ahead and start with my kit, and I'm being mindful of my 1-inch borders and maintaining my sterile procedure because everything here is sterile. So I'm just gonna go ahead and separate, and I'm keeping my stuff into my sterile field and inside of my 1-inch borders. First and foremost, I'm going to go ahead and assess my balloon of my Foley kit. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the syringe. This is a 16 French, and it states here that it's a 16 French, and it can be inflated with a 10 ml syringe, which I have here. So I'm gonna go ahead and inflate it, just to make sure my balloon, making sure there's no leaking, no holes there, okay? Now that I see that, I can go ahead and deflate it again. And I'm going to leave this connected to my catheter here and leave it there, because once I get unsterile, it would be hard to, can you close your door? It would be hard to use. Sorry, that's my sister. I've got my swab sticks here that I would use, but I'm going to just open them and go ahead and take them out of the packaging. Okay. I've got them out, and then I'm gonna go ahead and set up my lube. I've got my lubricant, I'm gonna do that there. And then I'm going to lubricate my catheter nicely and leave that in there, making sure it's not flying all over the place. Okay, so now that I've got all of that, and if I needed a urine sample, I would collect it here, and I can even collect it from the bag because that's also going to be sterile. Okay, now that I've got all of that set up, all of that done, I can go ahead, and my left hand is going to become unsterile while my right hand stays sterile, because my right hand is my dominant hand. Once I place my left hand onto my patient's penis, it will not leave, okay? So I'm just gonna fix this because it moved a little bit. Okay, so now that I've done that, if my patient had any foreskin, I would pull the foreskin back, but because my patient is, I'm gonna move this over so we can see it. Because my patient is actually circumcised, there's no need to. So we're ready to begin. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab this using my left hand, and I'm just gonna put a nice hold on my penis, and I'm not reaching across my sterile field. I'm gonna take my swab sticks, cleaning the tip of the penis once. I would discard of that. I would discard of that. And then I'm gonna do it one more time and discard of that. And I'm holding the penis at like a 90-degree angle so I can insert into and pass the prostate. Now that I've done that, this hand is going to stay on the penis, and I'm going to go ahead and grab my catheter. So now that I got that, it's lubricated already. We can go ahead and insert. until we feel some resistance. Once we feel some resistance, that's us probably hitting the prostate. We're just going to let it relax a little bit, and then we can continue to advance the catheter. And I'm not touching my patient's skin with this right hand. I'm having a hard time here. And I'm not touching the patient's skin, not touching the patient's skin, and I would keep advancing until I get some urine back. Once I get some urine back, I'm just doing this to see. Oh, that's why there's an issue, because my thing back here is disconnected. Okay, so I was wondering why I couldn't go in once, because it had disconnected there. So I'm just gonna keep advancing the catheter until I get some urine back. I'm still advancing the catheter. Just wanna see if I can move it in here. Okay. Once we've made it in there, I can go ahead and, my hand would not leave, but I'm trying to figure out so I can be able to inflate my balloon, because the way that I have it set up, I wanted it to show the bladder. So I would just go ahead and insert it. Okay, so now that this is here, it's into the bladder, I felt some resistance, I can go ahead and inflate my balloon. Okay, my balloon is now inflated. So I can inflate my balloon, and then I would pull back on the catheter. And then I would go ahead and pull back on the catheter until I get some resistance, so that I know that the balloon is not just floating around in the bladder. Once that's done, I know that the patient's Foley has been inserted correctly, and then I would go ahead and connect this. Now I'm in sterile, and I would connect the bag to the bed railing, and I can also connect my stat lock, and I would go ahead and connect that and stick that to my patient's thigh, and that would be my Foley catheter insertion. Thank you. And I just also want to mention, I did not break my sterile procedure. I was just trying to fix my canister in the back that usually I would have the catheter, it would extend into here, and then the water would flow out for the urine, but didn't work out that way. So that is my sterile technique and my Foley catheter video. And next I'm gonna be doing my NG tube. Thank you, bye.